Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. In my previous videos, we have seen how to monitor Jenkins using Splunk app for Jenkins. So in this tutorial, we are going to monitor Jenkins using Prometheus and Grafana. We will be running Jenkins Prometheus Grafana as a Docker container and will be configuring the metrics from Jenkins to be pushed to Prometheus. So by end of this tutorial, we'll be having beautiful dashboards in Grafana with the metrics from Jenkins. So let's get started. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe, like the video, share and comment. So to start, I'm going to use a Centos machine where Docker is already installed and running. So if you see the status of Docker is active and running. And we don't have any Docker containers running because if you run the command docker ps or ps-a, we don't see any containers running. So if you're not sure how to set up Docker, please check my tutorial in my channel. So let's run a Docker container for Jenkins. So let's use docker run -d for detach mode. And I'm running with root user, so that's why I'm using -u and give a name as Jenkins. And we are going to use the port 8080 from the host and also from the Docker. And also we can map the other port 50,000. So it's not mandatory, but you can map that port as well. And we are going to use a persistent storage, or I'm going to map the volume to var/Jenkins, which will be mapped to var/Jenkins home in the Docker container. Okay, you can check the command properly, so you can run the same command. So var/Jenkins is the place where we will be storing the configuration from Jenkins. So we'll have to go there and collect some details, and we'll be able to see the jobs and workspace, everything in that location. So let's wait for the download to be completed and the container is running. Okay, great. So the Docker container for Jenkins is created. So if you run the docker ps command, we can see the container running. So let's check the IP address of the host machine, and we can access the Jenkins portal using the IP address and the port 8080. Okay, let's wait for Jenkins be ready to start. So it may take a few minutes for Jenkins to start. Okay, now one thing what we have to do is we have to give the initial admin password to configure Jenkins. So that is where we have to check the /var/Jenkins secret folder. So you'll have a file called initial admin password. So you can copy that from there and you can paste it into this screen and click on next. Let's select the install suggested plugins. So this stage, it may take a couple of minutes depending upon your internet speed to download the plugin and getting installed. So let's wait for this to be completed. Okay, so we are in the next screen where we have to create the user for Jenkins. So let's create an admin user. You can set the password and you can give the name which you want to give. You can give admin, or if you want to give your name, you can give it, and give a email address. So select Start Jenkins now. So you will have the Jenkins dashboard. So now let's create a new item. So this is, I'm just creating a test item with a freestyle project. Okay, you can give some build step, and you can, I'm giving it just a shell command. Okay, we can try running the build. Okay, so the build is successful, and you can see the console output like this is test. Okay, so that's great. So Jenkins is running fine. Now let's create a Docker container for Prometheus. So I'm again going to run docker run -d, and I'm going to use the root user. Okay, and the name of the container as Prometheus, and the port is going to be 9090, which will be mapped from host and also from the container. Okay, I'm also going to map a volume, so I'm going to use /var Prometheus slash I'm going to use directly going to try to map the Prometheus.yml file from the host machine to the Docker container. So inside the container, the location will be /etc/Prometheus/Prometheus.yml. And let's run the image prom.prometheus. So just verify the commands, and we can run the container. Okay, the image is downloading from the Docker Hub. Okay, so we are getting some error when creating the volume. So let's change this format. So what I will do is I will try to map the volume from Docker volume. We'll change the /var/prometheus.yml into a normal local volume in Docker. So I'll give something like Prometheus underscore config, and I will map it directly to /etc/Prometheus. Okay, so there is the same container running with the same name, so let's remove that. Okay, let's run the command again. Okay, that's great. So we have the Prometheus container running. So if you run the docker ps, you can see two containers running. One is for Prometheus and one for Jenkins. Now if you go to the location /var/lib and /docker volumes and Prometheus underscore config underscore data. So this is the place where we will have the Prometheus.yml file. So we will have to use this file because we'll have to make some modification in the YAML file to scrap some metrics from Jenkins. So we will see that later point. So before that, we have to make some configuration on the Jenkins. Now let's try to access Prometheus. So we'll use the host IP and the port 9090. So if we can see we are able to access Prometheus and the endpoint. We can see localhost 9090 and the target. And if you go to metrics, Prometheus by default it's taking the metrics from the localhost. But what we require is the metrics from Jenkins. So let's go to Jenkins, manage Jenkins and manage plugins. Go to available section. So the page is loading. So let's wait. Okay, let's search for Prometheus. You can see we have a plugin for Prometheus. So just select the plugin and install without restart. You can select the button for the Jenkins to be restarted after the installation is completed, or you can restart it manually. Now I have already rebooted the Jenkins instance, so you can see Prometheus under the installed section. Now go to manage Jenkins and select configure system. So we need to make some changes here. So I will explain you what it is. So if you go to configure system and scroll down to section for Prometheus, we have some data like path is Prometheus, and also we have some metrics like breed, and you can select the check marks, check boxes, like which all things you need to capture. So if you see the path name is Prometheus, what does that means is you can open the Jenkins IP address. Now if I change this to from Prometheus to Jenkins, if you go to the IP address of the Jenkins server and if you add Jenkins at the end, you can see the metrics from Jenkins server. If you change it back to Prometheus, we need to give the name as Prometheus after the Jenkins server IP address and the port. You cannot give metrics because I try to give metrics, but the data is not coming, or the page is not loading. So we will keep it as Prometheus for now. So the next step is if you go to the Prometheus instance, we don't have the target listed for Jenkins. So now we have the Jenkins metrics web page, but we need to add that into the Prometheus.yml file. So I have gone to the location var slash lib slash docker slash Prometheus underscore config underscore data, and we are editing the Prometheus.yml file. So we need to enter another stanza for the Jenkins instance. So we need to give a job name, and also we need to give the static configuration, and also what metrics we are going to uh, scrap it using Prometheus, because we are not using the same slash metrics in Jenkins server. So let's add that same. So job name, I'm going to change this to Jenkins. So let me remove these comments. So I'm going to add something new called metrics underscore path. So this will tell where the metrics is available. So it's not slash metrics as default. So we are using slash Prometheus. And let's change the target to the Jenkins master IP address and the port. Yep, so it's going to be 192.168.145.131 and the port 8080. So this will change depending upon the IP address of your Jenkins master. Okay, now let's save the file and restart the Prometheus Docker container. So you can restart the container using docker restart and the container ID or the container name. Yeah, but unfortunately the Prometheus container is not coming back up. So I think we have some issues with the Prometheus.yml file. Okay, I think the problem is the way how we have written the job name, because there is a space. So we need to make it align correctly in the YAML format. Otherwise, the Prometheus server will not start. So I'm just realigning it. Okay, let's save it. And once again, let's restart the Prometheus container. Okay, great. So we have the Prometheus container running now, and also the Jenkins master server. Okay, let's go back to the Prometheus portal, and if you go to target, now we can see the Jenkins scrapping endpoint there. So let's wait. Yeah, we are getting a message about the not able to connect. This is because of the firewall, which is blocking the port. So let's add the port 8080 into the firewall exception, and let's reload the firewall. So you can see all these commands in my video description, so you can just copy it from there. So you can see the Prometheus is now getting the data from Jenkins as well. So let's know these all this scrapped content from Jenkins is available in Prometheus now. Now let's use one of the metrics. I'm just copying the job uh, Jenkins job count history, and let's run it in the Prometheus, and you can see there are some data coming. Let's use another one. So this is another metrics which Jenkins job waiting duration. So if you run, uh, since I think we have very less number of job, we are not having much data there. So let's create some new jobs and let's check it. Okay, so I have created 2 to 3 jobs now, and let's try the metrics in the Prometheus again. So now we can see we have some graph coming because we had very less data before, and now since we created few jobs, we are having some data to show up in Prometheus. Okay, so the next step is we have to start a container for Grafana, because now we have to use the metrics from Prometheus to be integrated into Grafana. So let's run another container using docker run -d and the name of container Grafana, and we are going to use port 3000, and here we are going to map a few config files into the host as volume. So I'm going to map etc Grafana, and also for data we are going to use /var/lib Grafana, and also for logs. So Grafana logs, we want to copy or map it to this location. So it's going to be /var/log/Grafana, and you can run the Grafana image. So let's wait for the container to be started. Okay, so we are almost done. Okay, so the container is created and it's running. So if you run the docker ps, we can see now 3 containers. Okay, now let's go to the browser and we can access Grafana using the host IP and port 3000. Okay, so the initial username is admin and the password is also admin. We can set a new password for the admin user. Okay, that's great. So we are in the initial dashboard for Grafana, and we don't have any data sources added, and also we don't have any dashboard. So if you click on data source, you have option for Prometheus. You can select Prometheus and we need to configure it. So select the IP address and the port number of Prometheus server. So let's enter that and click on save and test. So like now again we are getting some message regarding the connection. So this is basically again the port for Prometheus is blocked. So let's add the Prometheus port into it. Okay, so since we accepted in the firewall, now we are able to connect. Okay, so we are done with the configuration of data source. Now it's time to create some dashboard. So you can add a new panel and go to the data source, which is Prometheus, and we can use the metrics which are coming from the Jenkins. So let's use something like we can search in the this screen what are the metrics which are already coming from Jenkins to Prometheus. Okay, for testing, let's use this metrics which is for Jenkins queue size, history, count into Grafana. So let's create some dashboard, charts from it. So you can see there is a data coming, so you can save this into the dashboard. So you can look on the right side, you have different options like visualization, display, and you can give the panel name. So you can go through this and you can make the modification the way how it will be good for your requirement. So this is just to show how we can use the metrics from Jenkins, which is already a inbuilt connector to Prometheus, and now we added that into the data source of Grafana. Yeah, I'm trying to add more panels into the dashboard. So it's just to show you some test cases. You can use any metrics you want. So as I said, you can change the visualization using whether you want a normal chart or some numbers or gauges or bar chart tables. So there are different multiple options which you can go through it. So I'm not going to explain this section much. You can try out by yourself. So I'm just trying to create some panels so you can see how it works. Okay, great. So we have a good dashboard now with a few panels where we get the different kind of reports. So if you go to home and you have the Jenkins dashboard. So if you click on this, you have good information coming from the Jenkins. And if you see, there are 3 Docker containers running, like as we explained before, all these are done using Docker containers, one for Jenkins and one for Prometheus and one for Grafana. And if you go to Docker volume ls, we have 4 volumes which we created, one for Prometheus underscore config and 3 for Grafana, Grafana config, log, and data. So you'll can go through these files where if you want to make some changes on Prometheus.yml or some settings for Grafana. Okay, to summarize, we have seen how to create Jenkins, Prometheus, and Grafana as Docker containers, and we have installed Prometheus plugin in Jenkins and configured the metrics. We have also configured the Prometheus.yml to add the Jenkins Prometheus metrics and scrape the data to Prometheus server. And last, we have connected the Prometheus data source into Grafana, and we have created dashboards and panels in Grafana. So I hope this tutorial is informative for you, and thank you for watching. I request you to subscribe to my channel, like the video, share, and comment.